sisters, let us get closer to Allah. Dear sisters, let us learn of Rasulullah. Dear sisters, let's make the future bright. Dear sisters, mothers, daughters and wives. Dear sisters, let us get closer to Allah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My dear sisters in Islam and also my dear brothers, welcome to a new live episode of our program, Dear Sisters. We're with you live in this next hour, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, my dear sisters, to answer your questions. Any questions, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, relating to relationships, so that we can try to give you advice about your situation. Also, any questions relating to basic Islamic knowledge relating to Muslim women, inshallah. How to deal with your kids and things like that, inshallah. Feel free to give us a call beginning right now at 002-0238-555, 248 or 249, inshallah. Also through Skype at Huda_TV. Huda_TV. Let me take a moment to welcome my guest, Sheikh Ibrahim Zidan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you doing this afternoon?
Alhamdulillah, very good.
Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen. So it's great to see your very nice smile, mashallah. Barakallahu feek. Before we begin taking the questions, and we have many questions that came to us through Facebook, and also brothers and sisters, especially sisters, are going to call us beginning in just a moment, inshallah. Let's talk about this idea that has been raised many times, which is the idea of giving a fatwa on air, a fatwa live. You call in and you have a fatwa to your specific situation. Your thoughts about that?
No, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. The word fatwa is such a heavy word, actually, and sometimes it's taken out of context, and we have to be careful. Usually the one that is valid for him to give a fatwa, not like any person, and it's someone that has to reach the level of knowledge in which the people of knowledge will give him the authority basically to give fatwa. But as far as answering questions of matters that is clear, how to do this in salah, matters of fiqh, ibadat, mu'amalat, transactions.
So the basic tenets of Islam.
Right, but when it comes to personal situation, when it comes to things that are happening to the ummah, right, and the personal situations that we deal with, this is very important that a person would seek someone of knowledge and someone of being righteous to the best of your ability. As the ulama, they say, the alim or the scholar, he has to strive and struggle in matters of knowledge and getting to know the text and the differences between the different texts and how to extract the rulings and so on. This is the job of the alim, of the scholar. The job of the normal person, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered us in the Quran, فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ, as the people of knowledge, if you do not know. So their work is to find the people of knowledge, is to make sure when they ask someone, they ask the one to the best of their capability. He's the best in knowledge and the best in righteousness too. He fears Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if they take these means and they are truthful with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then the matter is easy, inshallah ta'ala. But when
speaking of easy, it is very easy because you have a telephone number or a Skype account, and direct access to that learned person, that scholar who's qualified, who's been given authority by other scholars to give fatwas, and you have people who are seeking that good scholar. So they connect together on air live. What are the harms of that?
To some extent, it's okay. But when it comes to personal issues, divorce, marriage, things, even personal experiences of certain situations, the danger of it, a person might misunderstand what the scholar would say, because it's something that there's no context, there is no understanding exactly what the situation is. So this can be misunderstood, especially when it comes on television, because there's no, sometimes the scholar would want to ask a question and the person would answer him. And also for those who are listeners, if it's one-on-one conversation, it's easy. But when many people are listening, a person might say, oh, well, this sounds similar to my situation. So they would take the words of the speaker as ruling and they would apply it in their life. This is very dangerous.
So basically, the person watching would make their own qiyas on the situation.
Their own analogy, which is such a dangerous thing. If they are in the level of being among the people of knowledge, this is easy. But for a normal person just to take, and this is the same thing when people read fatwas. They read fatwas online, and they would say a situation similar to their situation, and they would apply the same ruling. This should not be ever the case, except if it's general advices or knowing the ruling in general like that.
For example, if for example, if someone asks about the 6 days of Shawwal and you answer them that you're supposed to fast make up the days for sisters, you're supposed to make up the days and then fast the 6 days of Shawwal. And like you said also in a previous episode, in special cases you can go ahead and fast the 6 days of Shawwal and then delay the other ones. If someone calls in with a question that's very simple, like can I combine the niyyah and fast both at the same time, you can give them a fatwa and say no, you can't.
Right.
But if they're asking something that's more personal, that's more detail oriented, what should the scholar do at that time?
First, either if it's a matter that cannot be dealt with unless there's a judge present or a scholar being present and he will give the ruling and the verdict, then he should refer them to the scholars in their locality, giving the ruling of whether the divorce is valid or not. And people have to be careful, because the scholar, he is, if it's correct to say that, he is hostage to the question. If the question is said in such a way, he would give the answer according to the question. He does not know the situation. So he's not a judge between the husband and the wife, for example. He's answering the question of the sister or the brother.
But is the sheikh at that point blameworthy for going ahead and actually answering the question? If he's only hearing from one side.
Right. But if the sheikh, for example, would say, if the situation is such and such, then the ruling is such and such. So it's a responsibility of the caller or the questioner is to really be truthful with oneself. In many cases, it depends on the person that is asking. If a man comes and says, I said divorce 3 times to my wife, right? One of them...
Explicitly.
Right. One of them, I was very angry. The level of anger or not, or what did he exactly say or not, this is something that he is being trusted with it. So if the scholar would tell him, if you were such a level of anger that you didn't know what is light and dark and day and night, you were basically insane, then this is the level of anger where the ulama, they say that this is the ighlaq, or when a person is not able to understand, he's not responsible for his actions, like someone that is insane, then the divorce is not valid. Right.
But then the danger is that, as you said, is that someone else would be hearing. Maybe this person is truthful about their specific particular situation, but maybe there's another person listening, and like you said, they do their own analogy or their own qiyas based on a situation that that may actually contradict with their particular situation.
And that's why every person has a special issue. They should directly contact the person of knowledge if they have him in their locality. They need to do that. Otherwise, you can just learn some issues, some principles in the deen, but don't apply anything on yourself. Unless you're a scholar yourself or a student of knowledge and you know that for sure, meaning that you have the close contact with people of knowledge, or ask specifically for your case to a person of knowledge.
And your advice is you shouldn't do it publicly on television?
When it comes to fatwa, yes, many actually of the people of knowledge, they feel so much unease answering someone, and that person is thousands of miles away. Person takes the answers, not understand it very well, misunderstand it, and then in the Day of Judgment, that person will be responsible for what he said. So it's very dangerous, and that's why when we say something, when we answer some questions, we can talk generally, general advices, general rulings that applies for everybody. But specific situations, specific cases, especially with rulings, halal, haram, situations with blood, with honor and dignity, with things like that, people need to refer back to the scholar, like exactly a judge in the courtroom. Can anybody cut the hands of a thief, for example? It's not for anybody to do that. It needs a judge that applies this rulings if it's applied. So the same thing when it comes to the verdict. A scholar can say you are divorced or you're not divorced. This cannot be on television or unless it's a very specific situation where the person gets.
What if it's something, because we usually refer to the situation of divorce, what if it's something different, like for example, making it like a sister calls in, for example, and she explains her situation from her point of view. And then the sheikh says, if what you're saying is true, then your husband is at fault. Would that be okay?
And if he makes sure that she understands the condition that he mentioned, then that's fine. He's not giving her a verdict that she is divorced or not.
I mean, no, we're not talking about divorce. We're just saying that the husband is wrong in this situation, or you are wrong in this situation as the wife, or the opposite, if the brother is the one calling.
Still should not be taken as this is the ruling of the sheikh towards husband X, Y, or Z. Because he's not being a judge between them. He's just heard something and he's talking about it and answering.
And he's only hearing from one side.
Right. So it's not, fixing disputes among people. Just explaining what is the matters of the religion that talks about that specific issue.
And then we go back to the problem that we originally had, which is that even let's just say both the husband and the wife were on the phone, and they were talking to the sheikh, and he gave them a verdict that he said, for example, the husband, you're wrong in this specific situation. Someone else watching might make qiyas or an analogy based on that,
right.
and they may not fall into the same condition.
Right. And that's a very dangerous route for a person to take. So the advice is, it's a very good, healthy programs and things like that when it comes to answering questions, but to make sure that we take the advices from it, we take the rulings from it. But if you have a specific situation, a specific case, make sure that you are answered for your specific question by a specific scholar if you have the means to do that.
Not in public.
Not in public if it's something very specific to the person. With the certain circumstances, and that's why the fatwa might change from one place to the other. Not that the deen is changed or they compromise matters of the deen, but there are many variables in one's
Can you give us
life.
examples from the time of the Prophet ﷺ where the Prophet ﷺ gave one person a specific fatwa, and then he gave another person asking maybe about the same exact thing, a different fatwa, and both of them were correct?
Usually the famous incident when the Prophet ﷺ sent some of his companions to Bani Qurayza, and he told them a statement that do not pray Asr unless you are in Bani Qurayza, in their place. So the statement can be understood in two different meanings. So when the time of Asr came, they were not there yet. So some people said, we won't pray till we get there, as the Prophet ﷺ said. Others said, the Prophet ﷺ meant, make sure that you go there, right, before Asr or at the time of Asr.
Kind of to hurry up.
Right, but it doesn't mean that you would miss Salatul Asr if you don't make it. So they were split into two groups. And some people prayed Asr immediately, and some people delayed it and the time of Asr was finished. So they went back to the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ, he did not approve both of them, meaning that they're both correct. He approved their actions because one, both of them, their intentions were good. So one was rewarded double the reward, and one was rewarded one reward. But he, indirectly, the Prophet ﷺ approved those who prayed the Asr immediately. So you can do an action that is wrong, but if you take the proper means, and even if you did what is wrong, you are excused. But if you took the proper means. But if a person doesn't take the proper means, and he does not really exalt the matters of the religion, he doesn't really care, even if you do what is right, he might be falling into the sin, as a result of not taking the proper means of getting to know what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us. So if you as a Muslim, you would take all the means to get to know the people of knowledge, to ask them, you did what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered you to do. But if you go shopping for fatwa, as some people do, you want to just to get the one that is easy for you. People like scholars or like people of knowledge based on how easy they are to them. This is not their religion. They're not selling something from their own. This is the religion of Allah, and it's the responsibility of the person of knowledge, because they are the inheritors of the Prophet, is to show the truth, whether people like it or they don't like it. They just convey the message the way it is. So when people choose a person because he's easy or because he's difficult, there's no such a thing in the deen of Islam. So we have to be very careful. This is deen. This is the most important thing in our life. A person sick going to the doctor, people just don't go to anyone. They would go to the very specific, very knowledgeable person. The same thing in matters of the deen, which is even more important.
Jazakallah khairan. Inshallah, we're going to discuss this topic a little bit more, because it's very deep and has many angles to it. Let's take this phone call, inshallah, from Sister Aisha from the UAE. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Sister, can you turn your voice up just a bit, because I can't hear you too well.
No, I want to sometime. I have 6 children. Then I don't want to born again. It's not haram. 6 children.
I'm sorry. What was the question again? What is not haram?
I have 6 children.
6 children.
Yes, I don't want to now born baby.
And you don't want to have more.
Yes, and the second question is, sometimes I miss my Salat al-Fajr. I can't wake up.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So I'm guessing her first question is that she has 6 children, and she doesn't know, she doesn't want to have more children. Is that haram? Is she wrong in her thinking?
May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless her children. And it's a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be a reason or a mean for human beings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created, for them to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They will be on your balance of good deeds, inshallah ta'ala. And if you do your best to raise them in the proper way and they end up being not righteous, you did your job and there's nothing for you to be blamed of. So that's why leave it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is no harm if, for example, the sister is feeling she's not able to have birth again, or she's sick or whatever. If there's situations like that, there's nothing wrong with waiting. But to make a decision, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala change the situation, and maybe she become, mashallah, very healthy and she has all the means to have birth and so on. So if the case changes, maybe she would change her mind. So don't do anything as far as terminating the means for you to give birth. This is not permissible. But there's nothing wrong with waiting and taking the means to wait, and this has happened at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. And if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will for something to happen, it will happen no matter what you do. But don't do anything that is haram, meaning terminating the chances of giving birth whatsoever.
Jazakallah khair. And her second question was about Salat al-Fajr. She says sometimes she misses Salat al-Fajr, so some advice for her, inshallah.
Now, first, when we see ourselves that we're missing Salat al-Fajr frequently, this is a bad sign. And we have to make sure that we take all the means and stay away from sins and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for help, because this is something that has to be done at the time of the Fajr prayer. If a person misses the Salah, the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, مَنْ نَمَ عَنْ صَلَاةٍ أَوْ نَسِيَهَا فَصَلَاتُهُ حِينَ يَذْكُرُهَا, that if you overslept or you forget about a Salah, the time for it is when you remember it. So if you woke up, not intentionally waking up after sunrise, but it happened by mistake, you overslept, then the prayer time is the time that once you woke up, you make wudu, you pray the sunnah first, and then you pray the fard, and as if you prayed it in the prescribed time for Fajr, because you did not intentionally wanted to miss the Salah. So to make up the Salah is whenever you remember, whenever you wake up, you pray it at that time, and you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness so that it's not something that is repeated. Some people actually, they think of the qada Salah that they have to wait till the next day to make it up. No, you make it right immediately once you remember, not to wait for the next day and to make it with the other Fajr prayer.
Jazakallah khair. I have a sister, the question is kind of funny, but I think it's also important, inshallah. She says that her friend loves all animals, including pigs. And she's, she told her friend that, oh, that's haram, though, that you love pigs. And then her friend responded to her and she said, well, it would be haram eating the pigs, but not haram loving the pigs, because they are Allah's creation. Your thoughts?
I guess what it means by loving the pigs. Does it?
She just loves animals,
Does
she's
it
like,
do anything as a result of that?
That pig is so cute.
Right. Actually, this is something where she has to choose to hate the impurities and the things that are not permissible for us to deal with. One of which is the pig. Although Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the pig, but still it's an impure animal. So you have to hate that thing in it. But as far as, if you see something cute in anything, Allahu Alam, I never heard anything of that before, but we can make decisions and we can choose to change the way that we desire things. So if it's an instinct feeling, there's no harm, but you choose otherwise. Oh, this is an impure animal, so I need to be away from it. I need to hate the attitude of this animal. It has bad attitude, actually. So I need to stay away from that. If that's the case, then there is no harm, inshallah.
Jazakallah khair. Let me go back to the subject that we're talking about. Sometimes on fatwa shows, the sheikh says, well, the majority opinion is this, but there's also another opinion that says this, and he leaves it at that. And he says, Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. In your opinion, does that confuse the person who's asking and the general listening audience? Is that a correct practice by the sheikh, or should that be avoided? What should be done?
Normally, the sheikh doesn't have to present all the differences of opinions. If somebody asking a sheikh, and the sheikh would say, the ruling is this, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best, he did what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered him to do. But in certain situations, in many cases actually nowadays, when people are exposed to everything, so when there's an issue, and if the sheikh would just say the opinion that he believes is what is right, people already know that the matter has more than one opinion, so they might get confused or think that he is one way or the other. So it might be out of the benefit of the audience or the person that is asking that he would say that the matter has differences of opinion, if it's a valid differences of opinion, so that people won't get into war against each other, or thinking that these people are people of innovation, for example, or they are deviants because they're taking the other opinion. To understand how to deal with the differences. So this can be a benefiting thing.
But every issue has two sides to it.
See, it has to be a valid difference of opinion. Not every difference of opinion is valid.
Okay, we know, of course, that the issue of hijab and niqab, that's a valid difference of opinion. How about the issue, for example, that I see on many fatwa shows about, for example, a woman saying that she doesn't have a mahram and she wants to go for hajj. So the sheikh would say that according to the majority opinion, that she's exempt from hajj. And therefore she doesn't have to perform hajj. But there are a group of scholars who say that if she has good company, she can go in a group. And he leaves it at that.
He should not leave it at that. He should not leave it at that. And the reason maybe he mentioned it like that, because people are exposed to all these differences of opinions. But if what he believes and what he knows for sure, as far as he is concerned, is this is the correct opinion, he should strongly say that this is what is right, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best, and he should advise strongly to follow this or to follow that.
For example, I'll give you another example. The issue of the personal gold, that women wear on a daily basis, and the issue of zakah that comes with it. I heard a scholar 2 weeks ago answering a question, and I thought he did a really good job, because what he did is that he said, there's this opinion and there's this opinion. And these scholars say that this opinion is correct, and these scholars say that this opinion is correct. But he was able to convince me, and I think many of the other people in the audience, of one of the opinions. He said his opinion was that the zakah is a wajib on that. So, and he was very convincing about his own opinion. But what I see many times, especially on television, is that it's kind of left. It's like, here's one opinion, and it's the majority opinion. Meaning, there's a subtle understanding that this is what I believe as the scholar, for example, right? But then there are also a group of respected scholars who say such and such, and Allah knows best.
See, there's a dangerous trend, actually, and a deviant trend, in which this is the case. Things are being presented, and basically pick and choose whatever is easy for you. This has nothing to do with the deen of Islam.
I think this is against the etiquettes and the ethics of a mufti, right?
Definitely, and against the principles of the deen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَإِن تَنَازَعْتُمْ فِي شَيْءٍ فَرُدُّوهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ. If you differ among each other about a matter, refer it back to Allah and His Messenger.
Shaykh Ibrahim, to be honest with you, every side has an ayah and hadith to support their opinion, and a sahih hadith and an ayah from the Quran.
Now you took us to the critical point here. What to do if this is the case? Then, as an individual, a non-scholar person, make sure that in a case like this, as the person that you would come on the Day of Judgment, and to answer Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that this is the most knowledgeable person on the face of earth, as far as I know, in matters of his knowledge and his religion. And I would ask him, and whatever he tells me, I will do, if it's a matter like this. But what is wrong is to pick what is easy, and saying, well, there's a valid opinion in this. This is not religion, this is following the desires. So in that case, see the opinion of the most learned person on the face of earth according to your ability, and take his opinion, and that's it. And he closed the doors on anything else.
At the same time, the idea of what's easy is relative. I'll give you an example. The issue of hajj for women, okay, who don't have a mahram. Now, someone can say, well, what a person would normally say is that, okay, you're taking the easy opinion that you can actually go. But another person would argue exactly the opposite. They would say that the easy opinion would be just to say, okay, I'm exempt. That's the easy thing to do. But the hard thing to do would be actually to go in a group without a mahram and go to hajj and suffer through all the trials and tribulations that any person goes through during hajj, the struggles that they go through hajj. So kind of like even the idea of what's easy is relative.
Right. But in that case also, again, either the person is a person of knowledge, then the matter is easy for him. If a person is someone that is a student of knowledge and you have the means to differentiate between the sayings of the ulama, then he should follow whatever he believes is right.
But most viewers of television are not students of knowledge.
In that case, and people need to be very careful with this and apply this in their life, take the opinion of the most learned person. that you would come on the Day of Judgment and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ask you, why did you go or why didn't you go? You'd say, Allah, you asked me or you ordered us in the Quran, فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Ask the people of knowledge if you do not know. And I ask the people of knowledge. But then there's something in your heart that when you ask, did you ask the one that will give you the answer that you like, or you answered the most learned person on the face of earth, according to the best of your ability? Even if you have to spend so much money or to travel to the end of the world to ask a person something, it's worth it. This is deen. This is something, Jannah or the hellfire. So that's why asking the questions, it's not a simple thing. It's not just ask and whatever the person says, it's his responsibility. He's the one that will be suffering. Me, I'm free. Just take any opinion of any scholar and you will be freed on the Day of Judgment. This is not the case.
So people say, well, it's the responsibility of the scholar on the Day of Judgment. He's going to be the one who's going to be punished.
It's his responsibility and the responsibility of the person asking also. And the person asking
it's a
has
joint responsibility.
You have to ask the people of knowledge, not the one that is portrayed by the media as being the person of knowledge. No, you have to take the effort and take the means that this is to the best of your capability, this is the most learned person that you know on the face of earth.
Jazakallah khair. Very interesting discussion, mashallah.
And one important thing is, it is the right of the questioner to ask about the evidence. Although the scholar doesn't have to give the evidence. But if the scholar is being asked, either he has it on top of his mind and he would say it, or he would say, I'll get back with you. But this is one of the rights of the questioner, to make sure also that he worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on clear evidence.
Jazakallah khair. We're going to take a short break, inshallah. When we come back, my dear sisters, we will be answering some of the questions that we got through Facebook, inshallah. We'll take more of your phone calls, so please stay with us, inshallah.
Sisters, let us get closer to Allah. Dear sisters, let us learn of Rasulullah.
Ask Huda.
Dear brothers and sisters, welcome to a new edition of Ask Huda.
I have 2 questions.
Please go ahead. You can read it in Arabic and you can also understand the meaning in your own language. The different tafsir and the interpretation of the meanings of the Quran are available in almost every language that exists on earth by the grace of Allah. The water of Zamzam is for whatever intention you drink it with. Salih from Egypt, his father has the way and he asked about how can he help him. Very good question.
Can we give a zakat to any of the dawah centers?
The ibadah or the act of worship is a part of the unity of worship. It has to be paid to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and in accordance with the guidance of his Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
The Messenger of Allah, peace be upon him, narrated that when Allah, glory be to him, wishes good for someone, he bestows upon him understanding of the religion, and that Allah makes the path to paradise easy for those who seek knowledge. Preoccupied by work or family in the modern world, a Muslim may struggle to find time for acquiring Islamic knowledge. To ease this struggle, we are launching Huda Academy to be your gateway to online Islamic e-learning.
Enroll now and study from our renowned scholars. Learn Aqidah from Dr. Muhammad Salah.
Learn Fiqh from Dr. Hatim Al-Hajj.
Learn Hadith from Dr. Muhammad Saeed.
Learn Tafsir from Sheikh Ibrahim Zidan.
And learn Arabic from our professional instructors.
Successful graduates of Huda Academy will go through a final test and eventually receive a certificate of completion.
To enroll and learn more about Huda Academy, please visit us online at hudaonlineacademy.com.
Huda Academy, your gateway to authentic Islamic knowledge.
Dear sisters, let us get closer to Allah. Dear sisters, let us learn of Rasulullah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My dear sisters, welcome back to your program, Dear Sisters. Thank you so much for continuing to be with us in this beautiful hour. We're with you live right now answering your questions. So inshallah, feel free to give us a call at 002-0238-555, 248 or 249 inshallah, or through Skype at Huda_TV. Sheikh Ibrahim, there's a question about male circumcision, and it's asked by a sister who she met a non-Muslim person. She convinced him to accept Islam. He used to be a Hindu man, and now he's a Muslim. And he wants to get married to her. She accepts, but he refuses to be circumcised. So she's asking, is male circumcision a requirement for her to be able to get married to him or not?
This is one of the issues that has differences of opinions. But the opinion that I personally take is that if a person is old in age and he embraced Islam and he was not circumcised, then it's not something mandatory for him.
When we say old, we're not talking about 50 or 60. We're talking about kind of a young man.
Right.
Yeah.
Although it's best for a person to do that if there's means and it's easy, but he doesn't have to. Why? Because as the ulama, they say, when the Sahaba radiallahu anhum went into the different lands and people embraced Islam with the hundreds and thousands of people, and even at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, you would never hear that the order was given to these masses that they need to be circumcised. They just accepted their Islam and that's it, and they said the Shahada, they took their shower, but there was no such a thing as mentioning of circumcision like to the masses like that. So that's why the ulama, they say you just leave the matter the way it is, and it's not mandatory in that case.
Let's take Sister Munura from Kenya. Assalamu alaikum. Sister Munura, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, sister. How are you doing?
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. Go ahead.
I can't hear you.
I can hear you, so go ahead with the question and we'll answer it bidnillah.
All right. First of all, I want to commend your efforts which you are making to inform us. We really gain a lot, mashallah, from Huda TV. May Allah reward you all. And I always pray special prayers for Huda TV every day.
Barakallahu feek.
Now, my question is, I wanted to know if, for example, you're traveling from point A to point B, for example, Makkah to your destination, Kenya, the distance by air, the distance between the two places is about 4 hours. Now, and the time Fajr prayers arrive when you are in the air, I think after 2 hours. For example, exactly 2 hours is time for Fajr prayers. Can you pray in the plane while sitting? Of course, taking into consideration you are not following the pillars of Salat. Can you do the prayers while sitting in the plane?
Barakallahu feek.
There are some scholars who say, no, you can't. Reach your point of destination and then you can pray your Fajr prayers there.
We'll answer you with that. Barakallahu feek.
Thank you very much.
The case here, if when you reach the point of destination and it's still time for Fajr, not finished yet, before sunrise, then you should wait till you reach your point of destination and pray your prayer with its pillars and standing and so on. But if you would miss the Fajr prayer, the sun would rise before the plane lands, then you have to pray in the plane. There's no such a thing that you wait, because the time of Fajr is limited.
Even if you're praying sitting down?
Even if you're praying sitting down. And the issue of praying in the plane, it depends on the situation. If there are means for the person to stand and make the salah normally, then the person has to do it this way. If there's no such a way, there's no mean to do that, then if you can stand while making takbiratul ihram, and when you make ruku' and sujood you sit down, then you should do it this way. If you can't, and you can just make the takbiratul ihram and then sit down, then do that. So it depends on whatever means you can do the best you can, and if you can't do any of that, just pray sitting. If you can just face the qibla when you start the salah, and then after that you continue the salah normally, then this is what you have to do. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ, that be obedient to Allah to the best of your ability. So in that case, if you're going to miss the salah after the plane lands, pray in the plane. You have to do that, even if you have to pray sitting, because there's no other means to do that.
We have another question. Sister, she says she used to be on contraceptives and her period has changed. Instead of it being 4 days, now it's 12 days. And it was irregular for a day or so, and then it would resume again. But the bleeding would completely stop after 12 days. So what should she do when it comes to prayer and
and this is another issue where I would say if and so on. If it's period blood, and women, they would get to know the nature of the blood, if she has the mean of differentiating whether it's the color or the smell. If it's blood of the period, then she is not to pray or to fast, and we treat it as a normal period. But if the blood is changing and she has the ability to differentiate between the two different bloods, then when it's not the blood of the period, then she makes wudu for every salah and she makes the salah. So it depends on if it's a blood of the period or not. And even if it's 12 days, there is no harm even if it's 12 days. It's not taking more of the month, right? So she would be able to know that if she doesn't have the ability to differentiate between the blood, and it's more than what the norm is, then she has the norm of the days, and then what is extra of that, she would make the wudu for every salah and make the salah. So these questions, again, it has to have some, we have to ask questions, whether she know the difference between the blood or not.
I think most sisters do, so because she was able to recognize that it was 4 days before, but now she doesn't know, because like you said, it goes and then comes back. But if you're sure that it is the blood of the monthly cycle, then you should not pray.
Right.
Okay. Jazakallah khair. There's a sister who's asking about the life of a Muslim based on the Sharia. If you can specifically asking if you can walk us through it from the time of Fajr until a person goes to sleep. In general, what can a person do in order to make sure that they are living the correct Islamic life?
The first thing, the most important thing after the oneness of worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the 5 daily prayers. So these has to be on fixed times, that we put these first. When people talk about time management, this is what you put first. This is the big thing in our day.
This is people say, okay, I'm revolving my day around my breakfast, lunch, and dinner. No, it should be around Fajr, Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, and Isha.
For men, it's the masjid. There's no compromisation in that whatsoever. Unless a person is far away from the masjid or his work is far away from, that's a different situation. So, and the prayer in the beginning of its time. For the sisters, if she's at home, she prays in the beginning time of every prayer. So that comes first. And when we say the prayer, we perfect it. That means that you pray the sunnah prayer, you pray the fard prayer, you take the time in doing the prayer, you perfect it the most perfect way. And then after that, there are certain things to be done also and to be observed. When it comes to waking up at Fajr, for example, if not before that, you pray the Fajr prayer, and then it's a very recommended act to stay to sunrise in state of dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Remembrance of Allah authentically, as the Prophet ﷺ said, and then after that maybe recite Quran. And I think we have a call, but one important thing is, as they say, your day is like a camel. If you drag it from its front, the back will come with it. So make sure that the beginning of the day, you do it in a perfect way. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make it easy for you, that the end of it will be good.
The English saying says, a good beginning is half the work.
Right.
So it's the same meaning, subhanAllah. Jazakallah khair. Sister Salisha from Oman, Assalamu alaikum.
Yes.
Assalamu alaikum, sister.
Hi. I have a concern. I am an American now working in Oman. I converted to Islam about 2 months ago, but I don't know how to do the salat. I don't know how to pray. Where I grew up, there are no Muslims, so I had nobody to teach me. And this actually weighs quite heavily on my heart. And here even I try to talk to people about it, but there doesn't seem to be an Islamic center here that a woman can go to. And then I hear comments like, I read the Quran, but it's in English because I don't know Arabic. And somebody,
First of all, let me take a moment to congratulate you for becoming a Muslim. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always keep you guided. The second thing, do you have access to YouTube?
I do, and I have watched a YouTube video, but I still find that the Arabic is it's difficult. It was the video I watched was actually.
Let me give you some really good advice. Okay, there was a program done here on Huda TV by our dear Sheikh Muhammad Salah. It was called The Prophet's Prayer. Okay, he goes through every single step of how the Prophet ﷺ used to pray, and he explains it obviously in English. Someone, mashallah, may Allah reward him on YouTube, put all the episodes. There were a series of 13 episodes, 15 minutes each. Someone put them in one YouTube video. Okay, that comes out to about 2 hours. So I would recommend if you can watch that bi'idhnillah, so go ahead just on YouTube and just type the Prophet's prayer and write Muhammad Salah for Sheikh Muhammad Salah, and inshallah you'll find that video. Watch it. If you have questions still, feel free to give us a call on this program. We'll try our best to help you, inshallah.
But with the Arabic language, Sisters were saying how to recite the Quran. It's very difficult, of course, for someone that doesn't know how Arabic first.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong for her to write it down, transliterated with the English letters in the beginning. And if she even read it from a paper, like Alhamdulillah, like this, there's no harm. Until you learn it, you can praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and say Subhanallah. But make sure that you try your best to make your salah on time, and make dua when you are in sujood and so on, and take it easy on yourself. If you read it 5 times a day, how many rak'ah? At least 17 times you would recite it. After a week, that very difficult task becomes very easy and becomes very normal.
Yes.
So it's just few days that struggle with it. Inshallah ta'ala will be easy. And make sure that you become in a good environment with the Muslims, especially Muslims maybe from the same background, that they can help you in the environment. It's very important. But the issue of the Arabic, it's easy, inshallah. If it's done every day, inshallah.
MashaAllah. Jazakallah khair. Alhamdulillah, so it's beautiful. One of the best things that I love about this channel is that it's watched by a lot of reverts to Islam.
MashaAllah.
And I find that, alhamdulillah, there's great benefits for them. Alhamdulillah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless them. All right, let's take another question. So, a sister is asking, she says, when sisters get together outside the masjid and they pray jama'ah, should the leader of the salah, a female leader of the salah, read the Quran loud for everyone to hear it, or only loud enough for the leader herself to read it, to hear it?
No, she can raise her voice for everybody to hear, as long as it's safe and it's not going to be involving other men listening to that. If it's only women, and raising her voice just for enough for everybody to hear.
But is the woman's voice awra when it comes to reading Quran?
If it's, of course, reciting Quran with tones and things like this, it's not for men to hear that. But for women to hear that, there's no harm. So if it's
among what about, because I see on different channels, on different television programs, a sister would call in the show and she would recite just like a brother would call in. And I'm talking about an older sister, not a a sister that didn't reach puberty.
That should never be done, especially if it's beautifying her voice and giving.
Reading tajweed.
Right.
She's not making her voice intentionally soft, but she's reading in tajweed, trying to have the most beautiful voice, just like a man would do when he's reading Quran.
That should not be done. That's why men should not correct the recitation of women while the women are beautifying their voice while reciting the Quran.
Even if no one can physically see them.
Right. Allah knows best. This is one of the issues also that needs to be corrected. But if it's done in a tone that it's not really a tone, and it's a normal voice, Allah knows best. But these things should be avoided, and people should, again, men with men and women with women. But
actually, someone commented on that last week. Was it actually? On Saturday we were together on the straight path, and one of the comments that we received after the episode. By the way, we got a lot of good comments about the topic and about the discussion that we had. Alhamdulillah. But one comment that really stuck in my mind is a sister. She said, "I loved how Sheikh Ibrahim said, men with men, women with women."
Right, and this is how, subhanallah, so that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect our actions and so on. So this is one of the things. But as far as the prayer is concerned, there's no harm as long as it's all women together.
Jazakallah khairan. We have Islam from Egypt. I believe he's a brother. Assalamu alaikum.
Brother Osama, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Brother Osama, really good to see Allah in his home. Thank you for that, Yani. Second, I have a question.
You have what? You have a question. Go ahead.
Okay. First question, when I make food, I always close my eyes. Is this true? Second, I'm human. Basically, I'm human. Okay. So I have really feeling toward some person Christian. Actually, is true if I make a supplication to her? Thank you.
You said supplication. guess the phone line got cut off on the second question. I did get the first question completely, so we'll answer that inshallah. He's saying that even though it's a sister show, we can give some room for the brothers inshallah. He's saying that when he makes sujood, sometimes he closes his eyes. Is that okay or it's not?
He should not intentionally close his eyes, or anything. He should leave it normal. And the Prophet ﷺ would look at this position of sujood when he is standing or sitting. But in sujood, don't force yourself or don't make it a duty that you have to close your eyes. Just leave it normal like this. And normally it's opened, but when it's open, you're not like focusing on what's in the ground. It's just opened, right? So don't force yourself to do one or the other. Be at ease with the matter.
Jazakallah khair. I'm getting quite a few questions these days on my personal page, and I'm getting similar questions here. We're not going to talk about specific situations, but let's just talk about a general issue. And I'll give you a specific example that I don't want you to answer that example, but to take it and give general advice, inshallah. This specific example, a sister from Libya, she sent me a message and she said that she's one of 6 daughters. And her dad will not allow any of his daughters to get married. And the oldest daughter is 40 years old. 40, 40, not 14, 40, 40. And they keep on, going down until the youngest one is like 21 or 22. He has no valid reason, no valid excuse. He lets the boys get married. I'm getting a similar question here. Parents don't want, their daughters to get married. Your thoughts and general advice to people in that situation?
It's a very, something that is for me personally, to think someone would do that to his own daughters. This is something that is amazing. But anyway, if this is true that the father is preventing his daughter to get married, period, then he has no guardianship on her anymore. She can go to the judge in her locality, or she can go to the scholar or whatever, and then she should get married.
When we're not talking about he's preventing her from marrying a specific person.
Right.
We're talking about entirely.
Right.
Okay.
She's not going to get married. And every time somebody comes and he is righteous and has all the means to get married, and he refuses just for the sake of keeping her like that without being married, then she has the right to get married. So his guardianship then can be moved to someone else, from her relatives. If not, then the judge. And there's no harm on her. Actually, it's a duty on her if she's, of course, she's in need to get married.
Of course. Jazakallah khair. Sister Naima from Kenya. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum, Sister Naima.
Wa alaikum salam.
Go ahead, sister. Yep, go ahead.
Is the woman's voice an aura?
We just answered that question a moment ago. Were you listening to us?
No, I wasn't.
Okay, inshallah, we'll answer you. In general, is a woman's voice awra?
There's no such a thing as the woman's voice is awra. It's, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says it in the Quran, فَلَا تَخْضَعْنَا بِالْقَوْلِ فَيَطْمَعَ الَّذِي فِي قَلْبِهِ. Softening the voice of the woman, that is what is not permissible.
So as you said earlier, the natural voice, that's fine.
And if it's talking about something serious, there's nothing wrong with that. Women used to buy and sell, answering the phone, whatever there is, as long as there's no fitna involved and she speaks seriously. But once you start cracking laughs and softening the voice, and the thing that is between a husband and a wife where she softens the voice to her husband, that's only to the husband, not for any other men. And the ayah is clearly mentioning that because of those who have sicknesses in their hearts, that should not be a mean for them to be affected by that. But the normal voice, when they say the woman's voice is awra, voices speaking and things like this is not awra. But singing, for example, or things of that nature, definitely this is not permissible.
So when you were talking earlier, we were specifically talking about a woman reading Quran in public, in front of men, whether on television, whether...
with beautifying her voice. But if she's quoting a verse, for example, like we would say, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قُلُ اللَّهُ أَحَدٍ. I quoted a verse, but I didn't...
But if she says it in tajweed.
Right, it says in tajweed, without toning, there's no harm. But having a tone to it,
right? She says it in tartil.
In tartil, then that should be avoided.
Jazakallah khair. Barakallah feek. SubhanAllah, we have a lot of phone calls. Sister Amina from Nigeria. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. Question?
Yeah, go ahead, sister.
Okay. Is henna, is it bad for a woman to put henna?
Are you talking about on her hair or on her body?
Okay, on her hands and legs. And my second question is kajal haram for a woman to put on when going out?
Makeup,
My
right?
third question is makeup. I want more explanation on makeup.
Okay. Jazakallah khair, barakallah feek. First question about henna. Did you hear if she was specifically talking
hands and legs?
She said hands and legs.
These things with the makeup, with the henna, anything that of adornment to other than the husband or those who are the maharim of the women, it is not permissible to have any form of adornment to strange men, whether it's henna or makeup or anything like that. But these things, if it's done to the husband, to the mahram in your family, your brother is present, he sees that, all these things, there's no harm. It's nothing wrong with that, as long as it's itself not harmful. Some things might be harmful to the body.
You're meaning the chemicals used.
Right.
Okay.
But it's usually adorning oneself, that's exclusive to the mahram and not to all men on the face of earth.
Okay, we only have about a minute left, so we won't get through all the 3 questions. Let's take the second one, inshallah, and end with that. Makeup.
Makeup, the same thing. When it comes to makeup, it's permissible for the woman to have makeup when she's with her husband, and only the husband can see her. But going out in the street for people to see that's not permissible. It's a sinful act.
And of course, in front of other women, it would be okay?
In front of women, no problem. As long as the matter is secured and there's no men would see her and things like this. So again, it's all about adorning oneself and beautifying oneself to other than the husband or the women or those who are permissible for them to see her. And this is, other than that, it's not permissible.
Jazakallah khairan. Usually we don't talk about personal matters, but we have to, I think, very quickly in this episode. You're going to be traveling for a few weeks, inshallah. So can you just tell the sisters to wait for us when we come back, inshallah?
Yeah, inshallah, we'll be back, inshallah ta'ala, the second week in October, inshallah ta'ala. Actually, the 8th of October, inshallah ta'ala. So keep on, please, sending the questions, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us all steadfastness and always bring us together in matters of obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
And inshallah, my dear sisters, until that time, we're going to be playing some repeats of previous episodes, inshallah. So hopefully, if you missed one of them or you missed a question here or there, you can gain some good information bi'idhnillah ta'ala. I hope tonight's or this afternoon's episode was of benefit, inshallah. Jazakumullah khairan. We'll see you next time bi'idhnillah ta'ala on October 8th, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us life. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Sisters, let us get closer to Allah. Dear sisters, let us learn of Rasulullah. Dear sisters, let's make the future bright. Dear sisters, mothers, daughters and wives. Dear sisters, let us get closer to Allah. Dear sisters, let us learn of Rasulullah. Dear sisters, let's make the future bright. Dear sisters, mothers, daughters and wives. Dear sisters, let us get closer to Allah. Dear sisters, let us learn of Rasulullah. Dear sisters, let's make the future bright. Dear sisters, mothers, daughters and wives.